going to show you. So let's get to it. Integrating sources is, let's see, right here, there we are. Now, because this is a current assignment, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to pretend like there's a whole separate prompt. The one that I'm going to, let's pretend and imagine for this example of my video, what are the impacts, negative or positive, of social media and technology on our society? That's the prompt. Possible thesis or argument you could make. For example, someone, when they read that question, they may think, based on what I've learned in class, based on the videos or the book I've read, here's my opinion. The most significant impacts of social media and smartphone use in our society are poorer communication skills and the increase of deceptive online behaviors. So what's going on here is, before we even get to integrating your sources, you want to make sure that you have a clear thesis or argument to make. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time picking and choosing your sources, picking and choosing your quotes. Quotes may feel out of place. They may not feel like they relate very well to your main idea. Your main idea is the thesis or argument based on the question. So right off the bat, what do we see here is 2 points to my thesis, right? 2 points to my thesis. This means there's 2 main sections to my paper. This means that the sources I'm going to use to integrate quotes are going to either back up or support this, or they're going to back up or support that. Okay? Now, to add quotes to your body paragraphs, it helps strengthen your argument and your related claims. If you don't do this, it just looks like fluff. It feels like you're repeating yourself. It feels like you're going nowhere. You need to have evidence. That's another way to look at it. Quotes are evidence to support your opinion or position on an issue. Aim to include at least 1 to 2 direct quotes from each source of info per paragraph. When you're trying to argue a point, 1 to 2 direct quotes can really strengthen your paragraph. But make sure you don't just drop the quotes into your, we're not just copy pasting. Here is a structure you can use for a paragraph to integrate quotes. First, start with a topic sentence. A topic sentence, that first sentence of your paragraph has to state a point or a claim, part of your thesis. Now, for this, what I'm focusing on is this one right here. I need to create a topic sentence, part of my thesis, that really focuses on this. We're not talking about this one in my body paragraph, just this. Here's an example. As society continues to escape into social networking sites and communicate less in person, rates of loneliness, depression, and suicide have risen, especially among teens and young adults. Now you might think, well, this looks like a fact. It's not. It's actually my interpretation of what I've been reading or watching or sources. And this is my point I'm trying to make. This is a claim that I'm making that backs up this right here. Is it repeating? No, it's actually more specific, right? I'm talking about communicating less in person. I'm talking about the results of that as an impact, right? I could say here, the most significant negative impacts. Maybe that'll help. Okay, so this is a negative impact, poor communication skills. This is to start off that body paragraph. This is a topic sentence. What comes after that? Using a quote. There's a method called the quote sandwich method. Basically, if you think of a sandwich, you got bread, meat, or if you're a vegetarian, it's that veggie patty, and more bread. Okay, it's all important, but they come in order. So for the topic sentence coming right after that is integrating the quote. I want to start off by introing the quote. This is again why we don't just drop, copy, paste a quote in. You got to intro it. What's the intro part? Right here. Okay. This part is the intro, the quote part. Why? Because we say who said it, who said the quote. We also say where you can find it. You got to have a title. You've got to have an author to introduce a quote. You also got to tell us like what kind of source it is. Is it a video? No, this is an article. That's why I say in the article, titled, author Gene says, and notice the sentence is not done. I have a comma right there. What happens after that? After the intro comes the quote itself. And that is important, but that's probably the easiest part, right? You just copy, paste it word for word. Check your spelling. If you're going to retype the quote in, make sure you don't miss any words or letters. And then put in the page number if it's a book. All right. You're done with the meat or the veggie patty. You got one more thing to go, and that's the last part of integrating a quote, is explaining it. This is the part that a lot of students miss. They thought, well, I put in the quote, but you need to explain the quote. And here's why. We need your words, your voice, your understanding. We don't just want someone else's voice. We need you to continue to be the stronger voice in your paper. So the quotes are just for evidence to back up what you want to say. After you present the evidence, basically explain what you mean by it. Like, what's the connection? Why is the quote so important to your claim, right? Now, here's the explanation part right here. Just one sentence. But it didn't come from the author, it came from the student. Okay, so going back to the topic here, this topic is backed up or supported by this right here. And what we see here is the student is using this quote, which says that there's data that teens who visit social networking sites every day but see their friends in person less frequently are most likely to agree with the statement, a lot of times I feel lonely. That's evidence. What does the student say? Well, Twenja's point is that daily use of social networking sites does have a direct connection with feelings of loneliness. So it's basically an explanation of the quote. Now, you're almost done. You want to follow up an explanation of the quote with another point of support in your own words. So the student decides to add another explanation or connection. These sites may connect us, but they do not replace authentic face-to-face communication, which has been shown to combat loneliness and depression. That's the end of integrating a quote and using the quote sandwich method. Do's and don'ts: do not quote and run. Do not quote and run. This is not dropping the mic and running. So don't leave a quote hanging without explaining it or connecting it to your argument. If you do, you have a weak paragraph. Number 5, do not quote stack. That is to just stack quotes in a row with no explanation in between them. So remember when I said if you could have 2 quotes in a paragraph, do not copy paste 2 quotes back to back. You want to explain after each quote before you bring in another quote. So use your quotes, don't let your quotes use you. Okay, what does this all look like? Here's what we just went through as one paragraph. This is a body paragraph. Here's the parts right here. My topic sentence, which basically sets up the focus of part of my thesis, my claim. The quote introduction right here, introducing the quote, who or what said or showed the evidence. We have a title and we have an author. Then the actual quote. So this was the bread right here. This is the meat right here, the actual quote. And then here is the last part of the quote sandwich, which is explanation of the quote and why it matters back to the main idea. of this paragraph right here. And here is the explanation of how this evidence connects to the main idea. Okay, that's it. Hope this helps. Replies, comments, questions, feel free to post on the discussion board.